people another couple minutes to get settled. It is an interactive webinar. There is a comment section to your right, a chat section. Please feel free to post your questions. I have two amazing guests who live kind of near me, and I'm really sad that they're together and I'm at home, but here we are. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Aaliyah. We have Aaliyah running our technical side of things. We were all just catching up on birth, and Christy and Kelsey are a doula collective, so it's always great to talk about birth and, you know, specifically surrogate births and how special and beautiful they are to, you know, to be a part of and to watch people become parents right in front of your eyes. And as the surrogate, I don't know if we really can appreciate that until we're in that moment, and then it is just immeasurable. I can't even, I don't even think I can quantify how those moments changed my life. So we're going to get into all of that and more. So as you have questions, please just pop them in the chat, and we will get started. So again, my name is Leia Swanberg. I'm the founder of Canadian Fertility Consulting. I am a mom of 5. I've been a surrogate twice and an egg donor a bunch of times, and this never gets old for me. I love sharing my experiences, other people's experiences, and answering questions about the process. I would like to introduce my guests, who I want to read from a little sheet. I have a cheat sheet because we all have a ton of kids when we're together. There's just a whole bunch of them, so I want to make sure I've got this. Kelsey is 41. She has 4 kids. She's done 4 journeys, 2 surrobabes. She was in the exciting world of childcare and has been a server and is now a doula during this 4th journey. Christy's 46. She's got 5 kids. She's completed 2 journeys and is currently waiting on a journey. And she's an office manager for 3 midwife clinics and a co-owner of the doula collective or doula company Willow Tree Community Outreach Services with Kelsey. So welcome, ladies. We will also, if you are on Vancouver Island or anywhere in Canada and are more curious about doulas, curious about labor support, when we send this recording out, we're going to link to these guys so that you can connect with them. Kelsey is mid supporting someone who might be in labor tonight. So, you know, if she steps out, that's where she's gone. So thank you guys so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
I would love to hear from both of you, sort of what brought you to surrogacy. How did you find out about it?
You go ahead. Well, initially, I had a friend who had a friend, so a friend of a friend, lived in the United States, and she was a surrogate. She was pregnant for a couple, and I thought that was just so cool. I had just had my 5th baby, and I knew that my own family was complete, and it just really intrigued me, this topic of surrogacy and how it's so cool, and like, you know, being able to do that for someone to help them have a family. And I just kept thinking about it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I thought, oh, you know, it's cool that they can do that down in the States, but I didn't even know actually it was a thing here in Canada. I had never known anyone that had been a surrogate or anything like that. So I basically Googled it and I found Leah's name, and I read all the articles about Leah, and I thought, you know what? This is who I want to work with. And so I contacted Leah and her company, and the rest is history. Yeah, basically I just Googled it. I didn't know it was a thing in Canada. So I was curious. I Googled it, and yeah.
Awesome. And Kelsey, how did you find surrogacy, or
for
how did
me.
surrogacy find you?
So I was, I think, pregnant with my 3rd baby, and a friend of mine, her sister was a surrogate, pregnant with twins. And I just thought, oh my God, that is so cool. I can't believe people actually do this. This is so awesome, but way too big for me. I could never do anything that important. And so I just sort of let it go, but always never really forgot about it. And then the night before I signed up to be a surrogate with CFC, I had like a little mini breakdown in my, and I was crying. And what am I supposed to do next? What's my next big thing in my life? Because my kids were getting older. I had 4, and I was done growing my own family. And then the next day, there was a CFC advertisement on Facebook, and I'm like, okay, that's the thing. Clicked the link. I was on a call within an hour, I think. And yeah, that was like 8 years ago or something. So yeah.
Okay, so are you guys married? Do you have I mean, I know that I obviously know. I mean, I know both your partners, but are you guys married?
We're not married together.
Not to each other, but like, do you guys have like, how did you broach the subject? Because I think there's a lot of people listening going, "Oh, I could do that, but my partner, like, I would be, there's no way." Like he or she, they would say like, "Forget about it."
My husband is used to the fact that I do crazy things all the time, and he supports me in anything that I want to do.
Okay.
But I mean, it did take him a little while to get on board. He had to think about it and research it. He's a Virgo, and I'm a Scorpio. And but yeah, once he learned more about it, and how much actually goes into it, all of the screening and everything that goes into it to become a surrogate, and just how safe it is in Canada, it didn't take him long to get on board.
Yeah. I also have a husband that's wholeheartedly supportive of every, he calls them my worm farm ideas, because being a worm farmer is kind of like out there, right? Like you don't hear of many, and it's like, who decides to be a worm farmer? Anyways, I'm the worm farmer, not literally, but metaphorically. I come up with all kinds of things, but I do my research. I always, by the time I bring an idea to my husband,
You know everything about it.
yeah, I'm already an expert in it, and I've already decided this is what I'm going to do. And it's kind of more of a like, do you give me your blessing? But it's more of a, I'm telling him that I'm doing that. But he is wholeheartedly supportive. But I think, I have surrogate friends in our community, because, once you become a surrogate, you become part of a sisterhood. And it's really amazing to see surrogates from all over Canada, and even locally, we get together and really rally alongside of each other, and support each other. But anyway, so I've had friends that their partners weren't really gung-ho to support them in this, and that's a challenging thing. And I think to become a surrogate, you have to be able to traverse adversity well, and be able to be strong in what you believe, but also flexible and willing to roll with what comes your way. And I think that there's a special personality that surrogates have. And I think if you're already wondering or curious about surrogacy, you probably are that personality already. So, I think if you've already had to go through challenges with your partner, if this is something that you're called to, or that you really want to do, research together as a couple, and see why this is maybe something that will fit your life, but I think bottom line, it's important to have the support of your friends and family and partner around you, because it's a journey, and it's not just, I'm deciding to have a baby and 9 months later I have a baby and that's it. Like it's becomes your new life. Yeah.
And waiting, I hear from so many surrogates, like I signed up and I thought I'd be pregnant the next month, and it's 6 months, and we've had failed, for those of you who are new to surrogacy, like a transfer would be the embryo being placed inside of your uterus. We've had failed transfers, and I thought this was going to be easy. I got pregnant so easily. How did the two of you navigate when it wasn't easy, or it wasn't good, or maybe the relationship, you guys have been matched with various people, like when the relationship breaks down, like I want people to know, like, yes, surrogacy is amazing. We live and breathe it. Like when you talked about getting together, I miss you guys. Like, that sisterhood is so important. And surrogacy sometimes is super hard. And like, how do you guys reconcile the hard with the great moment at the end?
There's definitely ups and downs, I would say, with every journey. I don't think I've ever met a surrogate who hasn't had some type of difficulty in their journey. But really, just going back to the day, the birthday, it's just, but again, having the support of the sisterhood is just so important
Yeah, I
for
find
getting through those times.
I agree. I think that is an important way that I've been able to go through some of the challenges that I've had in my journeys. My first match actually ended. We had been together for over a year, and it ended with the pregnancy not working, the transfers not working, and we had to go our separate ways. And I kind of started off with like on such a emotional high, like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna make this family for someone. And yeah, like Leah said, like I had my 5 children so easily. My husband was a truck driver and home 2 days a month, and we managed to have 5 kids. So I've been called fertile myrtle. So I've never had a problem getting pregnant. And so for me to go into this experience with my first journey and it not resulting in me helping to create a family, that was really hard. But yeah, I did have that love and support from my friends and family and fellow surrogates. And it's kind of a unique thing that no one truly understands but other surrogates. So it's important to have those connections, and that is one thing that I really appreciate about CFC is the opportunities to create those connections that you guys have worked hard, Leah, on providing. So yeah.
The connections are you guys. Like, sure, CFC puts on an event, we do the thing, whatever, we introduce you on our surrogate page, and we have that community, which is so important to us. But those connections work because of the people that show up for surrogacy. And so my next question is this. We had a question someone sent in, and it was like 5 reasons or 5 things they thought would make them a bad surrogate. I'm a little bit heavy. I'm on antidepressant medication. I'm 40 years old. I'm single. I've had my tubes tied. And we get that a lot, like from people that are interested, maybe not feeling like they're good enough or perfect enough to be a surrogate. And I always think of every surrogate that we work with is so different. Some are 45, some are 21, some have their tubes tied, some have 5 kids, some have 1 kid. And like, can you guys talk about, I mean, you don't need to talk about your own imperfections, like, or things, whatever the things are, we all have our things. But what would you say to someone who's feels like they're maybe not enough to do this?
Well, I'm a big believer in knowing your own worth. And I think that if you have a desire to be a surrogate, there are a few things that might maybe be recommended that some people aren't good candidates to be surrogates. But the thing is if you want to do it, I say take that step and start the process and see, because there are things along the way that there's only, I think, 3 things that will automatically disqualify you, right? Like you've had to have a baby, you have to be 21, and maybe like, I don't know, maybe only those 2 things. I don't know. But
like drug use that you can't sort of abstain from
right,
if
okay.
it's recreational drugs. But yeah, you're right.
Sure.
I mean, it's
Like,
and being well, like listen, we all have our stuff, and
yeah.
if the person who sent the question in is watching now or in future, know that 25% of surrogates are using pregnancy safe antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication, and that's a negotiation with the clinic around what to stay on, what to change to, but we want women to be well, people to be well.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to speak to that a little bit. I know you said we didn't have to get personal, but I want to share that I was on 3 different mental health medications. In between journeys, actually, I started some medications. And then once I started this journey that I'm currently on, waiting to get pregnant, there was 2 of them. One of them was not recommended in pregnancy, and that was no problem. I talked to my therapist and I talked to my family doctor. We made a plan, and it's worked out, and I was able to wean off that one. But the other 2 medications, they're perfectly safe in pregnancy. So there are options, is what I'm saying. Is like, in life, you need your people. You need your healthcare provider. You need your therapist. Everyone should have a therapist. I'm a firm believer in that. But you have your support people, and those people are going to support you through being pregnant or not, whether it's a surrogacy or not, right? So that's, I think, an important part of it too. One thing also that's nice about CFC is they have their own counselor available. And I've used that service too. I have my regular full-time therapist, full-time, no, but my regular therapist. But Jan, she's amazing, and I have to give a shout out to Jan because she just knows. She's worked with surrogates for so long, and she's just that special soul that she's there available for all surrogates if they need to talk to someone. But
we're really lucky to have her.
Yeah.
But
There's things that maybe you're like, oh, I can't be a surrogate because, well, most likely that is kind of a thing that it's like, well, we can work through that or go around that, or it's actually not a big deal.
Absolutely. Kelsey, someone asked, or a lot of people sending questions before this asked, like, when the surrogacy journey's over, the people get their child, like, how were your kids, Kelsey? Like, I know you have kids sort of in various age ranges, but like, did this impact them? Did they go to school and tell their teacher, like, my mom just gave away a baby? Or like, how did your kids make
So
that?
I believe that kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. I've read lots of on our page, surrogates asking for advice on how do I tell my kids, how do I explain this to them. And for me and my family, we just say it like it is. We explain everything in normal words with all the proper labels for everything, and they just get it. They just get it. They know how it all works, and from the very beginning, all 4 of my kids have been ecstatic every time I tell them that I'm going to get pregnant again. And yeah, they're totally part of the journey. They get to know the intended parents as well. They get to meet the baby afterwards. That's something that's very important to me and my family. And it's definitely something that I talk to my intended parents about on our very first call.
What do you mean, baby? Like that your kids meet the baby? Like when you're talking, like, because another question that came in, Kelsey, was people were saying, like, how do you pick who you're going to help? How do you know if you share the same views? Are my kids going to be involved? Like, how did you have that first conversation? Was it awkward, or do you just say, like, this is what I want and I need you to do it? Or
so I think my first conversation with my very first IPs was a little uncomfortable, but that was just because it was something new. I've never done it before. But I've done it many times now, and I have my list of questions that I need to talk about in my first meeting with them, Skype meeting. And in my opinion, it's good to get all of the important stuff talked about in the very first call, even all the way up to preferences for how the birth is going to go. Because if we're not on the same page about all of the important stuff, it really doesn't matter what our favorite ice cream flavor is,
Right.
So I like to do the important stuff first, and then we can use the entire journey to get to know each other's favorite movies, etc., etc. So
okay. And so with that, did you guys have obstetrical care, midwife care, home birth, hospital birth, and who picks that? Like, I mean, I know the answer, but did you guys go into it with all of that sort of mapped out and find people that fit that, or did you fit with what they wanted?
For my first 2, I mean, my life is running a midwifery clinic, or 3 of them. So for my first 2, it was very important for me to have midwifery care. Um, with my current journey that I'm on, oh, and I had hospital births with those 2 babies, and that was a compromise. I was healthy and wanting a home birth, but at the same time, for me, I wasn't dead set on a home birth. Like, this is also the intended parents' journey as well, and their baby. And I think because they were from a different country, I think they felt most comfortable having their baby in the hospital. Now, ultimately, it's my body and it's my choice, and where I want to give birth is my choice.
Mhm.
Um, but at the same time, I've had babies at the hospital, my own babies in the hospital, and I've had a home birth. So I had experience of both. And to me, I'm not against a hospital birth. And so for me, part of it was wanting to make sure they felt comfortable in the process as well, to make sure that once their baby is born, they feel completely safe and that their baby is taken care of. Now, I mean, I know that a midwife would take care of the baby too if the baby was born at home, but for their peace of mind, because they're unfamiliar with the Canadian healthcare system, I just wanted to make sure that they felt at ease. This time, actually, I just didn't care what care provider I had or where I gave birth, and my intended parents currently did have a strong preference to have an OB as a care provider, and of course a hospital birth. And so I think I get best of both worlds, because I'm going to have OB care, but also midwifery care. I'm going to have shared care, and which I don't think is necessarily an option in many communities, but because they're my boss, maybe they, are willing to work with me for that, so that I have my the amazing care of the midwives and the OBs in our community. Because I work in the healthcare system that I do, is I picked the best OB, in my opinion, that will be the best for my intended parents in their situation as intended parents.
Mhm.
Yeah, how about you?
I've had a midwife with all 6 of my births, just because that was my preference. That is something that I talked to with my intended parents in our first meeting as well, that is what I'm most comfortable with. Of course, I'll go with an OB if something became high risk or
Yeah.
or whatever. But yeah, having a midwife is important to me.
Yeah.
And as for place of birth, my first journey was actually we planned to have a home birth, and then as the pregnancy progressed, I changed my mind and decided that hospital would be better, just because I thought it would be more comfortable for everybody. And then also the intended parents and their baby get their own hospital room after the baby is born, instead of going back to their Airbnb or hotel or however they're set up. So,
and I think that's it. We hang on, I have feedback during that. We change our minds, we make up our minds, we, as the journey unfolds. And I think that's the beauty of having your partner or your friends or people that you can sort of bounce ideas off of and go, hey, I know I thought I would be up for this, and now, based on this or this, or just being pregnant, I'm changing it up. So I'm always so proud of surrogates when they're able to ask for what they need and find people that can support them with whatever it is that they need.
Yeah.
So that are listening, if you have questions, please pop them in the chat. I know we're getting a lot through Instagram as well. So let me go to them. Oh, this is an interesting one. Well, actually, no, I'm going to start back to the beginning, because there's like a whole bunch of them. But what was involved in the medical screening? Like, how did you know that you were like suitable? I hate that word, but someone else's word.
there's a lot involved in the screening process, and actually, the last time that I screened, almost 2 years ago, it was during COVID. and which made it even more difficult for me because I'm unvaccinated and therefore could not travel, wasn't allowed to travel to my clinic to get everything done in one day, which is so much easier. So I
Right.
had to juggle around and do everything locally, which is multiple appointments. And there was support from CFC getting those appointments booked, which was really great. But it was still quite the process.
And
To do
that's
that.
another question. I know that right now it's sort of not a point anymore, but if it ever became a point, we support people's choices around their body and their autonomy, and whether that's in the place they birth, whether that's in advocating at the fertility clinic for a use of different medication or a natural cycle, which means not using so much medication, or and whether or not they choose to be vaccinated for COVID or anything else during a pregnancy. This is, we are not anyone's mother, or anyone's anyone. Who are we? We want to connect and share this journey with people, and it is a really good point. That during COVID we saw people step forward as surrogates. We didn't know what would happen. And so many of our surrogates, women, childbearing age, choosing not to become vaccinated. We refused to let that become a thing or a voice, or it was like we really, so I do really appreciate you bringing
I was
that
really
up.
grateful for the support that I received from CFC around my decision not to vaccinate. 100% felt totally supported.
Yeah, and I'm fully vaccinated, so I was on the opposite end of the spectrum. But when I went to do my screening, those that had already lifted within Canada travel, it didn't matter anymore at that point. So I mean, that specifically didn't affect me, but some of the things that we had to do for screening, this time I'm using a Canadian clinic, whereas my other two journeys I was using a clinic in the United States. So quite a bit of difference, but some of the things that the clinic required was a recent PAP showing that everything looked good. I needed to get a mammogram. Of course, all of the full swabs and screens for STIs for myself and my partner. And then there's also a psychological screening that's done. Basically, you get to meet with the lovely Jan, and she talks to you about what kind of support do you have in your life, and now this has never been said, but secretly I think it's just to make sure that we're not going to steal the baby after, because when we love having babies, that might be a concern, but that is a joke, by the way. But
no, and you know what, intended parents say the same thing. They say they think it's secretly so that they are screened out from leaving the baby with the surrogate. So that's a
oh
both
yeah,
sides
okay,
thing
there you
for sure.
go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I want to have your baby, but I don't want to keep your baby,
We're done
and
with
I
that.
want you to have a baby because you want a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are a few things of screening that need to be done, and some of them do take time. And so depending on your individual, where you are at, like when was the last time you had a PAP?
Get that PAP done.
Yeah, that might take the longest, or a few other things, but it isn't like I'm making a phone call to CFC and I say I want to have a baby for someone, I want to be a surrogate, and then next month I'm pregnant. It's actually, there are step by step, and these steps are actually very important because it ensures the health and safety of everyone involved.
So you go through the screening, you do get pregnant. How do you, like, I know in Canada, like, we got a lot of questions about money. Can I be paid? Can I be paid? So in Canada, surrogates can't be paid. They are reimbursed for their expenses. Depending on their expenses, the government has said expenses. The government has not sort of placed an amount on it. And with that being said, surrogates need to have receipts to collect the expenses. You know, how was that, Kelsey? Like, is that a hard thing to figure out? Does, like how did that work for you?
Receipts. I mean,
I know.
They're a pain in
I
the
know.
butt.
Canadian
I mean,
government,
they
if
are.
you're
That's just
watching,
the way it is.
let's make it easier for people. Let them decide what they spend their money on, please, rather than, you know, picking fly shit out of pepper on a grocery bill. Like, yeah. I'm with
Yeah,
you.
I mean, the receipts, they're a thing. I mean, you get used to it, and as long as you're organized and you stay on top of it. And also, there's the receipt management option as well, correct?
Absolutely. So we have people within our organization that have sort of created this little startup mini businesses where they will say, send in every receipt you have, and they will manage that for you to ensure that you're receiving your monthly reimbursements. It's all mapped out on a contract. All surrogates in Canada have legal representation, as do the intended parents, to map out that piece. So to make sure that, you know, you have a doula, someone to be labor support, and that's paid for by the intended parents, your groceries, your mileage to and from appointments, massage, chiropractor, you know, meals out, meal preparation when, you know, you're not up for cooking, which, you know, for some surrogates is a lot, childcare to be at appointments, childcare to rest, you know, all of those things. We want to make it, you know, and intended parents want it to be as easy as possible. We were always lobbying the government. I said always 3 times. But, you know, we really want the government to understand that there are easier ways to do this. And we hope that one day that happens. But until then, you know, here we are.
CFC is always there too for every surrogate, and the finance department is amazing, and there's always somebody available to help. And if it is after business hours, our surrogacy Facebook private page is literally full of hundreds of supportive surrogates who have been through all of this. There's always somebody available to help answer questions.
I was going to say that too, like, you know, with CSC as the agency representing the surrogate, you know, it's nice when you don't, me as a surrogate, don't have to submit a receipt directly to the intended parent, hoping that they will send me money. You know, I submit all my receipts to CFC. Their finance department makes sure everything's done legally and takes care of it all. And that protects me and the intended parents as far as that goes. And then they manage the whatever fund, I guess it is for the intended parents deal with CFC on that financial side too. So they act as a middleman. CFC acts as a middleman so that I don't have to like go beg my, I got this lunch receipt. Can I please be reimbursed $15 today or whatever, right? So yeah, it's
that
great.
definitely makes it easier.
Yeah.
It's awkward. We want intended parents and surrogates to have an insulated relationship based on trust, love, commitment, kindness, this pregnancy and the future, and not have to worry about the management of receipts and hassle of making the appointments for the screening and booking the flight if your intended parents have a clinic, you know, sort of outside of your community, which most do. You know, most intended parents are working with a clinic in Toronto because, as we know, Toronto is the center of the universe, or we on the West Coast joke that people in Toronto think that, and, you know, or in the US, you know, and so if you're up for travel, it can be a really fun experience for sure. I have a question from someone. They're asking if either of you used your own eggs in your surrogacy, or where did the eggs come from if you worked with a gay couple?
Yeah, they had an egg donor. So each of the babies that I carried, I'm not genetically related to. So they had an egg donor. Both of those couples happened to be separate families, two males, so gay males together. So obviously they needed an eggs from somewhere. And no, but it wasn't mine. It was an egg donor. So yeah.
Same here. I haven't used my eggs for surrogacy or for donation. Nobody wants them now anyways. I'm 41 years old.
Yeah.
But something really cool that some people that don't know so much about surrogacy find it fascinating to learn that gay couples often use the same egg donor and then make embryos with both dads, and then have a baby with both DNA from both parents.
So then there's the siblings end up being related.
Yeah.
By the egg donor, but also related by each dad. So that's kind of cool. Yeah.
It really is. And it's, you know, I was a surrogate almost 20 years ago, so times have really, really changed. And it still never gets old, like, you know, waiting on to see if there's a pregnancy, waiting on someone to go into labor. Like, it's always so amazing. And, you know, if you're on this webinar and you've kind of hung in there and you're realizing, wow, kids, like I haven't had kids yet, know that we have an egg donor program called Egg Helpers. And for many people who want to become a part of this world, but maybe don't want to have children, you know, or want to have children in the future, but not now. Egg donation is a really amazing way to support people becoming parents. And in that, you know, in our program anyways, we really encourage the egg donor and intended parent to meet and know each other. It's so important, you know, for children that result, that they at least have access to, you know, to the where did I come from question, which, you know, as we know, kids, whether we friends of ours kids or our own kids, that always comes up, like, oh, I look like you, or I don't look like, you know, or what's going on. And there is a huge difference between privacy and secrecy. And I think as we sort of go through this new world, family building, we're seeing that a lot of, you know, where do I come from, and answering that question in so many different and unique ways. Okay, let me see what else I have here for questions.
I have something about a comment kind of along the lines of that. I know that there are some surrogates that really don't want to keep in touch with the families after, are open to, once the child turns of age, if they wanted to be found, that's fine. Like, they don't keep that information. And then there are other surrogates that it's really important to them to continue having a relationship with the intended parents, to a degree that everyone's comfortable with, of course. But, you know, like one of my intended, well, they're parents now, they're not intended anymore. One of the families that, the baby I had, the surrogate baby, we still talk. They don't live in Canada, but we still talk and chat, and they send pictures and videos, and I send pictures of my kids, and, you know, we talk at least once a week. And they say, you know, like, you're an important person. Without you, we couldn't have had this baby, this child. And so, and it was important to me as well. So it was nice. And it's so nice watching that child grow and learn, and they send me videos saying hi to me, and it's really cute. I'm excited
Does
to
it
watch
feel like
that.
your baby? Like, people ask, that's one of the questions I just received. Like, does it feel like your kid is out there somewhere?
Great question. For me, no. It's not my baby biologically, and I set out from the beginning knowing it's not my baby, so I could really separate that. Although after I gave birth, my body had to catch up hormonally with that. So that was a process. It almost was like grief, actually, in a way, like, because it's like, I was pregnant, but now my hormones don't know that, why is there no
Where's
baby?
the
So
baby?
it's,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's a process, and that, I think, is part of one of the challenges of surrogacy, because, you know, logically it's not your baby. And I definitely don't want another baby in my house. You know, like, I'm glad that I was able to have their baby, and they took their baby. So, but yeah, like, so my arms and heart don't ache for the baby that's missing, but it was an adjustment after, in the postpartum time, for sure. How about you?
For me, it felt like I was giving birth to my friend's baby, which is what it was.
Yeah.
The connection I had with my surrogate babies was wonderful, but completely different than the connection I had with my own babies. I love my surrogate babies, always have, always will, but it's a different kind of love. It's like, it's not even nephew love. It's my friends' babies, the way that I love my friends' babies.
Yeah.
Very different for me.
Yeah, with the first surrogate baby that I have, I do kind of feel like a special auntie. So I feel that kind of family love connection. But definitely not my own child. Definitely the difference. My other surrogate baby, I don't really have a connection with at all. So that's just how that one turned out. And so it's very interesting. Now I still feel like, yeah, I've got that love in my heart for those babies, and that will never change, but it's not my baby for sure.
And I think
Under my heart
normalizing,
for 9 months and in my heart forever.
Yeah. Oh,
right? And normalizing, normalizing pieces, right, of the journey. And I think that, I see these ads all the time on Instagram and Facebook, like, do you love pregnancy? Don't believe, you're going to be so happy afterwards. You'll be able to sleep. And, postpartum depression isn't related to surrogates because they don't, and it's crazy because, I believe it's so important to normalize getting attached to a baby you're carrying. Like you want to be attached, or you want to talk to this little, baby growing and be there. You're nurturing, right? So yes, surrogates get attached. And after the delivery, it sometimes takes our minds a bit of time to catch up, or it sometimes takes our body a bit of time to catch up, or sometimes it's both.
Yeah.
And we do, as a community, acknowledge postpartum depression's existence. And it doesn't make us unable to be a surrogate again. It doesn't make us a bad surrogate. It doesn't make us anything other than like a human.
Yeah.
And I've had postpartum depression in my own pregnancies. I've had them after a surrogacy. I've had them after an egg donation. Like during a surrogacy, you are like on the highest mountain. I mean, could you imagine walking up to someone in a store and saying, wow, congratulations, and them saying to you, oh yeah, thanks, I'm actually a surrogate, or saying to your kid, like, oh, you're gonna have a sister, no, or a brother, no, my mom's a surrogate. Like I remember beaming in those moments and being so proud, and people being so curious and leaning in and like, what do you mean, and all these questions. And
I
then
love that part. I
me
love it.
too. You know what,
Yeah.
like that
Thank
is
you,
huge
it's
for me.
not mine.
Yeah, exactly. And I am like an acts of service is my, my gifts, my gift giving is, or acts of service or whatever, like the love languages, whatever. But like having someone recognize me as doing something so huge. And so after, it just sort of settles in, they're settling in with tucking in with their baby, you're back with your family. And like, listen, you go home from a surrogate birth, and there's no baby. So people don't know you still need to rest. You still need to take care of yourself. So surrogacy contracts, allow for this sort of 6 weeks post-birth bed rest, not necessarily because you need to be in bed, but because you may want to tuck yourself in, just like you would with a baby. And acknowledging that, whether that's for a physical ailment, whether that's because your mind or body are sort of catching up to where you're at, or because you just did this big, huge thing and you are tired, and so I really want to normalize that within the surrogacy world. And I think as we do more webinars, as we talk about that, I think it's really important to always normalize those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure I haven't missed any questions. I have not. So I'm going to ask you guys what I ask everyone, which is, what are you reading? What are you watching? Give us your best recommendations. Books, movies, Netflix.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh,
I'm right now binge watching Doogie Howser MD on Disney Plus.
Oh, is it really?
Like the original,
Yeah. It's on Disney Plus.
It's on Disney Plus.
Show.
Yeah. And then I just also started watching with Daniel. We always go do a series together. And I'm watching The Marvelous Light Adventures of Miss Maisie. No, what's it called? You guys will know what I'm talking about, right?
You picked that show, and that's why you don't know the name of it.
No, but it's actually really good. So far, we've watched 2 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah. What do
I'm
you
finally watching. Oh, what is it?
Mm.
Oh, I was just gonna say, first of all, I'm not a reader, but I'm an
neither.
Audible listener,
Yeah.
and I jump around, usually meditation type spiritual stuff. That's sort of my thing, my go-to stuff. I like nonfiction. I like to learn. And what we're watching, I think it's called Black Mirror, or God, I have to ask my kid.
The kids pick that one, right?
No, I can't remember what it's called.
Mm.
Anyways, the episodes, they're all different, and
Mm.
like it's not a one story, and they're super cheesy, and